guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a new video. So this is a video I've been wanting to make for a while, but I wanted to kind of wait and get some seat time with it. Now what I'm talking about is the Grimmspeed top mount intercooler. I have it coated with a thermal black coating. I installed it back about 2 months ago. And now I have some ample seat time with it so I can get a good review. I didn't want to just install it and say, hey, this is the greatest thing ever when I had no experience or no seat time with it. So I wanted to install it, get some time with it, and then finally give my review. Now, I know the first question that I'm going to be asked is, why didn't you go front mount? How come you stayed top mount? Front mount looks awesome, it's cooler, it's better, whatever. Yes, you know, there are some pros to going to front mount, and there's obviously some cons going to front mount. Now, this is not going to be really a debate as to which one's better or which one, you know, I should have done. But personally, the reason why I stayed with top mount is I wanted to keep this as OEM as possible. Now, this car I drive on the street. It's never driven on the track. It doesn't do any racing or anything like that. It's simply just a fun street-driven car, and I wanted to keep it that. That's my main goal with this car. I never want to go overboard with it. I just want to keep it reliable. I want to keep it fun. I never want to take this car, or any of my cars for that matter, to the point where I don't enjoy driving them. I did that once with another car in the past. I did so much to it that I was afraid to drive it, basically. And I don't want to do that with this one. This one, I'm really taking my time with it, making sure I'm doing it right. And one of those things for me, but doing it right, is staying top mount. Now, just quickly comparing the two, they're both great, but I'm not going for power. If I was going for big power, I would have gone front mount. Those are, for me, at least in my eyes, those are geared a little bit more towards, if you really want to shoot for higher numbers. You'll definitely get some better cooling capabilities from a front mount. For daily driving, staying top mount is definitely a better route to go, simply because you won't experience turbo lag. You have better drivability, just in everyday traffic. Front mount, you start to, get into a little bit of issues with those. You start having some turbo lag, and it's just not as great for daily driving. Now, top mount or front mount, it doesn't really matter. I think you can't go wrong either way. Obviously, front mount looks way cooler with the piping, and obviously up front, it looks really nice. But for me, like I said, I really wanted to stay top mount. And I felt that the best option on the market was the Grimmspeed top mount intercooler. Now, this thing is absolutely beautiful. It fits beautifully in the engine bay. One of the nice things about the Grimmspeed top mount intercooler is if you're running a parent strut bar, it fits behind it. It's actually much thicker than OEM, and it's a little bit wider. It goes back into by the firewall a little bit more, but there's still enough space for plenty of clearance for the strut bar, which was really important to me because I really do like that strut bar, especially in the white. In the engine bay, I think it looks really nice. Now, one thing to note is you can continue to use your scoop on the hood. If you go front mount, you can basically remove all of this. You don't need it, obviously. But for this, what it does is it actually directs the air from the scoop straight onto the intercooler. But the issue, well, I wouldn't say issue, but the thing with the Grimmspeed is that it's wider. The stock intercooler is skinnier this way. So the opening here is a little bit smaller. Now, Grimmspeed does offer a hood scoop option where you remove your stock one, but the hood scoop actually mounts onto the intercooler. Now, I'm not really a big fan of that look. I think it kind of ruins the engine bay. Obviously, it's a little bit more functional, so I might do it down the road. But for right now, the kind of driving that I do, I'm not too concerned about it. There's still plenty of opening in the hood scoop on the hood to get some ample cooling to the intercooler, so I'm not worried about that. But the Grimmspeed hood scoop, it's about $200 or so, so it's nothing crazy. And I might just do it just to see if I can see any difference or anything like that, especially now that I'm going to more power, stage 3. I might opt to pick that up and see if it helps down the road. But for right now, I'm okay with just using the stock scoop. Now, on to the actual review. Do I enjoy it? Did I see any differences? Did I hear any differences? Did I feel any differences? There's a lot of things to consider here. Now, initially, I wouldn't say I have a lot done to this car, but having an intake and the Turbo Smart compact bypass valve, it obviously creates more noise, especially with an exhaust and everything. So a lot of people say you can hear a little bit more turbo spool once you put this on. But for me, I really didn't notice it that much, mainly because of everything else going on. The intake is pretty loud when it's, you're on throttle and it's intaking the air, it's sucking in air. It has a really nice sound. So that's nothing I really noticed too much. Although I did notice a little bit more turbo sound and just like intake noise in general. when I was on the throttle a little bit harder. So I will say that I can attribute a little bit more noise to the intercooler that helps with it, making a little bit more visceral experience. So that is cool. I wasn't really expecting that. Some people mentioned it to me, but I didn't really have any high hopes with it because I didn't really know what to expect from just the intercooler. Now, supposedly you can get around 5 to 10 horsepower from just putting this on. I do feel that the car is a little bit more sensitive in terms of the throttle. It feels a little bit more snappy, which is nice. It's not something I noticed initially, and I don't think anybody would notice right away. But over time, as the car kind of adapted a little bit and I was kind of driving the car a little bit more, I did notice that the car felt a little bit more responsive. So that is something that I definitely contribute to the intercooler. I just feel like the car is much happier and taking in much better air, and it feels like the car is just staying a little bit cooler overall. Now, I'm going to stage 3 next month. I have parts over there waiting to go on, a bunch of fueling and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I think during then, I'm really going to see a bigger impact with the intercooler, especially because I'm getting a Pro Tune on the dyno. So really going to be able to dial everything in. Now, I'm not going to be able to really notice, oh, wow, the intercooler made that big of a difference, mainly because there's about, 30 parts going on the car. And I'm not going to be able to pinpoint exactly how much the intercooler helps, but I'm definitely have high hopes for it. I think it's a great route to go if you want to stay a very OEM-like setup. So I'm definitely looking forward to driving it more on the current Stage 1 Plus tune. I definitely think it's worth it. I honestly think it's the best option for a top mount intercooler out there. It's very compact. It's a really nice finish. The fins and everything, it just looks really good in the engine bay. You can opt for it in silver if you would like, but for me, I kind of like the stealthy look. Plus the coating, the black coating actually supposedly helps with heat, keeping the heat down and everything. So that is definitely a nice option that they offer. This one alone from Grimmspeed with the thermal coating, I think it's around 800. I forget, it's around that area. And without the thermal coating, I think it's about $100 less. So depending on what color you want, and if you have the extra cash to go with the thermal coating, I definitely recommend going with black. I think it just looks a little bit nicer, and plus it helps with heat and all that. So yeah, that is my initial review on the Grimmspeed top mount intercooler. Now I'll do an update down the road once I go stage 3 and I get more power in the car and see how much it actually helps. I really do think it's going to help in the grand scheme of things. Now, I know a lot of you are going to be asking, do you need a tune for a top mount intercooler? No, you do not. Obviously, it's recommended, especially if your car is tuned, to send some data logs over to your tuner just to make sure everything looks good. And plus, they might be able to get a little bit more out of the car. Ideally, you're not extending any piping. It's the same amount of airflow, basically. So you don't need a tune, actually, for a top mount intercooler. But I do recommend sending over some logs, like I said, just to be on the safe side. Now, going with a front mount, you're definitely going to need a tune because of the longer piping. There's different airflow and everything like that. So that is a highly recommended and something to take into consideration as well. All right, guys, so it's actually the next day of me filming the last clip, and I just kind of wanted to go over something that I just did. I did a little bit of a modification to the actual scoop right here. I started thinking about the Grimmspeed air scoop that goes on top of the intercooler. But I was like, you know what, this doesn't make any sense. I want to see if I can get it to work, because I just actually prefer the look of the intercooler like that. I don't really like the big vent on it that they offer. Yes, it's functional, but I don't think it looks that great. So I said, let me see if I can do something with the OEM hood scoop. So what I did, this is actually rubber. So you can just trim it. Now the scoop is obviously wider than the intercooler, so there's not much you can do about this side. I mean, you can make a little block off plate or something like that. But honestly, I don't mind having that little bit of, space right there, since it can get some cooling into the engine bay. So, it's kind of directing some air over to this area, which is nice. Obviously more cooling is better. But what I ended up doing was, you can kind of see where I trimmed it. So normally the rubber runs along there to there, so that's about 1 inch. Now if we look over here, it's pretty much, you just cut this foam piece off, which kind of sits right on top here, and it makes a nice line. So I just trimmed along that line, and it came out really nice. And now the scoop actually lands right here, as opposed to earlier when it was like landing right around here. So it has the full front of the intercooler. Nothing is being blocked by the rubber scoop here. Now the back part of it, it was probably blocking, I would say about 1 inch or so, about like that. So what I did, same kind of thing. This one was a little bit harder to actually get a straight line. I'm probably gonna clean it up a little bit. But what you can do is you trim all the way up to the black plastic piece and come across. I'm gonna clean it up over here, but It's really, really hard to show you, but you can kind of see the little space over here, but the entire scoop is completely open. And the rubber piece on the inside, the actual scoop, is still functional because it's still directing air. So it's a really, really nice little modification that I was able to get done. Obviously, that is up to you if you want to do that or not. But for me, this thing is, you know, you can replace it. It's not that expensive to do it. So I figured I might as well just give it a try, see what I think, and if it's, you know, even plausible at all. And sure enough, every piece that you need to trim is rubber. So this was the top piece that I trimmed off. It's basically just the foam area. And then this is the back piece that I ended up trimming off. So it's about 1 inch or so. And a couple little strips and everything, just, you know, cleaning it up a little bit. And, you know, I'm really, really happy with that. Now, obviously, it's not the Grimmspeed option. You know, this amount of space right here on the side is obviously not on the intercooler. Leaves it open, but there's not much you can do about that with the OEM scoop unless you do something custom, like I said. But a really nice option for people that want to keep the OEM hood scoop ducting. So that's all I got for you guys tonight. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you checking out the channel and the video. If you have any questions at all about the Grimmspeed top mount intercooler or anything else on the car, be sure to ask them below. I'll be happy to answer. I really do appreciate all the questions and comments and support with everything. It means a lot to me, so thank you so much. But that's all I got. In the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple, and I'll catch you in the next one.